You're welcome.
So, Gurmila Mahagut, I'm very pleased to be here this evening among some of you that I know. Most of you I don't. But I look forward to our discussion following my remarks. I'm just a year now as Sinn Féin President, and throughout the year I've consistently reflected on and tried to address the theme of reconciliation. Many times the words that I have uttered have been lost to the latest headline, controversy or dispute. But reconciliation is and will continue to be a focus of my leadership, because dialogue is crucial at a time of change and a time of challenge. A couple of weeks ago, I addressed the Future of Ireland conference in the Waterfront Hall. It gathered together the many diverse strands of nationalism from across our island. It was the first time since the New Ireland Forum in the early 1980s that nationalism met to discuss the present and the future. And there were those who welcomed this meeting and others who opposed it. But while it was a nationalist gathering, it did look to a shared future. It wasn't a narrow or exclusive nationalism, but a progressive and inclusive nationalism. And at that conference, I categorised our contemporary challenge as a duty of care to act in the best interest of all, and a duty of candour to be truthful with each other. For reconciliation, that means a duty of care to each other to heal the past, end the hurt, and work to build a future together. It also means a duty of candour to have the hard conversations, to accept difference and acknowledge change, to manage and resolve disagreement, to find our common humanity and shared values amongst the rubble of the past and conflicting hopes for the future. I'm an Irish Republican leader. I want a united Ireland and a republic of equal citizens, a united Ireland that must be home to all in our community, including Protestant, unionist and loyalist citizens. Anything short of that is a betrayal of all that we stand for, and I have no interest in that. Partition has been disastrous, causing and entrenching division, and we all paid the price. At the time of partition, the North East was the economic engine of Ireland, and Belfast, our largest city. Poverty was common across all sections of the working class. Generations were fodder for the shipyards, hard labour and emigration, dying young after a life of back-breaking work. For nationalists, it was decades of discrimination, repression and conflict. For unionists, the North became a gilded cage. In his poem Desert Martin, Tom Paulin observed, "A plain Presbyterian grace sour and then harden." The mantra became what we have, we hold, and for some that remains the position. In the South, home rule did indeed mean Rome rule, and it was mostly women that paid the price in mother and baby homes and as slave labour in Magdalen laundries. A new elite emerged and inequality was rampant. Today, the old conservative state in the South is gone, swept aside by marriage equality and the repeal of the 8th referendums. And Dublin is now a prosperous European capital. Modernity beckons and change is all around. And that's the thing with politics, as with life. Change happens. And the challenge that we face is to manage that change. For that is where the past and the future collide. Some say you must choose between reconciliation or unity. I think that's a false premise. Reconciliation is central. Reconciliation is not a Trojan horse for unity. Reconciliation can't be made wait for unity. Reconciliation sits above the constitutional question. We have an agreed process to deal with that constitutional question, and we now need an agreed process for reconciliation. A process to resolve the past, to live together in the present, and to unlock the future. It's an imperative to address sectarianism, segregation, and separation. It's not about winners and losers. It's not about apportioning blame. It's not a zero-sum game. It must be an outcome in which we all win, an outcome in which society wins. So it can no longer be what we have, we hold. Now is the time to move to what we have, we share. And I don't underestimate for a second the scale of this challenge. Conflict and the drivers of conflict, injustice, repression and exclusion take root when our common humanity, our civility and our compassion for each other is lost. After decades of conflict and segregation, our challenge is to rekindle that shared humanity. There are some who use the past to abdicate responsibility to lead in the present. Those who want to refight old battles, to demand repentance, victory and surrender. But that's no basis for reconciliation. That way only perpetuates division and separation. We can't ignore the past. We can't wish it away. Wrongs that have been done cannot be undone. The dead cannot be brought back, nor the injured made whole. And we must all face up to the past as a society. Indeed, we must recast our approach to the past. It can't be about legitimising or delegitimising deeds or groups or outlooks, but about accepting and acknowledging our collective history. I often quote a short poem from African-American poet and activist Lucille Clifton. And in her poem, Why Some People Be Mad at Me Sometimes, she simply wrote, "They ask me to remember, but they want me to remember their memories, and I keep remembering mine." So my starting point is to be thankful that the conflict is over, that we have an agreement and peace, but we need more. We need a new conversation about the past, a focus on finding common ground, a compassionate approach to the past, because all suffering is real and sincere. No one has a monopoly on suffering. I've stood with the families of the Republican dead. In my own city each year, I've stood with families bereaved in coordinated bomb attacks in Dublin and Monaghan, the largest loss of life in the conflict. And this university, Queen's, has not been immune from the conflict, from pain and loss. It impacted on staff and students. Edgar Graham, a lecturer, was killed by the IRA. Sinn Féin member and Queen student Sheena Campbell was killed by loyalists. And incidentally, her portrait now hangs in our offices in Leinster House. And I, no more than you, cannot undo that damage or that loss. I and my generation of Republicans will work tirelessly to build a society in which no other parent is left without their child, and no other child left without their mammy or their daddy. To work to promote peace and reconciliation, to acknowledge all suffering, and to provide spaces to remember. A space for each to remember in their own way. And it's about remembering the dead, not glorifying conflict. In 2013, Martin McGuinness, in a speech at the Warrington Peace Centre, made clear that the glorification of conflict is the antithesis of peace building. And I am a peace builder in the tradition of my friend Martin. Reconciliation isn't just about resolving the past, it is also about the present. It's about how we live today. It is wrong that divisions remain within our society. These are neither inevitable nor divined by God. They are man-made and sustained, and they can be ended. We must challenge sectarianism wherever it arises, to confront the lazy stereotypes and baiting of each other. We can end sectarianism. We can end segregation. We must end sectarianism and segregation. To recognise and respect the equality of all. And this isn't only about unionism and nationalism. This is about building an open, democratic and diverse society. A place where the rights of women to bodily autonomy are safeguarded, where the rights of our LGBT community are embraced, where the rights of Irish speakers are recognised. You see, we can't only govern and legislate for ourselves. We have to do that for all. This is a challenge to move beyond ourselves and to recognise the multiplicity and diversity of others. Reconciliation is also about the future. Tomorrow will not be the same as today, and change is happening all around us. It's our job, I believe, as leaders, each and every one of us, to now manage the evolving process of change with care, with honesty, with patience, and with generosity. For me, it's a false dichotomy to say choose between reconciliation and Irish unity. And for the avoidance of doubt, let me say that neither is there a contradiction in seeking the establishment of a functioning assembly and executive and also calling for a unity referendum, because all of these things are grounded in the Good Friday Agreement. So it's not a case of either or. It is a disgrace that the institutions of government are not functioning. This time last year, we believed we had a deal to re-establish the executive, but that was not to be. And the process is now hostage to Westminster and Brexit. The deal between the DUP and the Tories has undermined the process, and that is why we described, as you may have heard, the meeting held last Friday as a sham. The DUP and the British government know what is required to deliver a credible process of talks. It's about the implementation of previous agreements. It's about protecting rights and delivering on the legacy of the conflict, putting in place measures to support victims. And these are not by any means Sinn Féin demands. The deal between the Tories and the DUP will end, of that be sure. Let us hope that it leaves no lasting damage to the process and agreements in its wake. We in Sinn Féin are determined to re-establish the institutions and to deliver genuine power sharing in line with the Good Friday and subsequent agreements. We can have institutions operating to the highest standards of governance that safeguard rights and deliver for all. The call for Irish unity is building. Let me be clear that when I talk about unity, it's not about bolting north to south. We have, I believe, before us the opportunity to think anew and to build anew, because a united Ireland must be a new Ireland. So the failed policies of successive Irish governments must go. The South is a place of potential, of prosperity and opportunity, but it's also blighted by inequality, a housing crisis, homelessness, and a chaotic health service. But together, united, we can change that. Because Ireland North and South has great wealth and resources, we're blessed with an industrious and innovative population, and the wealth of the nation can be shared with the people of the nation. A new Ireland must be a place of equal rights, equal opportunities, and shared prosperity. It must have a truly national healthcare system, operating to the very highest standards, delivering for all on the basis of need and not on the ability to pay. It must be the Ireland of the helping hand and the safety net, a place for all to call home, and it must provide a home for all. A place where we are united in our diversity, where you can be British, Irish, both, or neither, where citizens are respected and rights are safeguarded. The Good Friday Agreement not only provides a peaceful and democratic roadmap for constitutional change, but also safeguards the right to citizenship, equality and parity of esteem in a united Ireland. In Derry last year, a young woman, a Highland dancer, asked would there be a place for her and her dancing in a united Ireland. It was a genuine and a sincere question. And I assured her that Highland dancers will be most welcome. And I said to her, you are British today, you will be British tomorrow, regardless of whether there's a border on this island or not. And I look forward to the day that that young woman dances in a united Ireland. The right to British citizenship and all that entails is safeguarded. And there can be no diminution of these rights in a new Ireland. Unionists will not only have a home in Ireland, they will have a place at the table, a place at the centre of political life, and not in the margins of Westminster. The Protestant, Unionist and Loyalist citizens are part of the very diversity of our nation, as much part of the discussion to shape a new Ireland as Republicans or Nationalists. So we are all partners in this great enterprise. Our shared and often troubled history can be reconciled. We are unique and diverse in our traditions, but I believe that together, united, the people of our nation add up to a sum greater than our individual parts. So we seek now to unite Protestant, Catholic and dissenter. There are no second-class citizens in this land. There will be no second-class citizens in this land. We've much to debate, discuss and much to agree. And that debate is on and change is all around. The notion of a perpetual unionist majority is gone, the very basis of this state. Unionism will of course bring forward a case for continued partition. But I believe it must also look at a contingency, a plan B, to define its role in a new and united Ireland. So I want to hear from the unionist community, from all of you here. I want to hear the fears, the needs, the ambitions in a united Ireland, to listen and to understand. And the rules are these. Our debate must be respectful and informed. It needs to be inclusive and free from threat. And then, in the final analysis, it will be for the people to decide democratically. But for my part, for our part, I believe that we have an opportunity of a generation to break from the past and to think anew. Let's all grasp that historic opportunity. Gurmila Mahagov.
Please stay standing for the realisation.